Joining me today is Tony Reda from Tectonic Metals. Tony, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So right now we're seeing some companies that we're chatting with here. They're talking about how it's a bit of a challenging environment for juniors, even companies that have great projects. It just higher interest rates are certainly impacting people's interest in putting money into risk capital.
Yes.
There's some talk that the Canadian junior markets might be a little bit broken. What's your read right now on the capital market raising environment for junior companies?
I guess what I will start off by saying is that the last 10 plus years, it's been challenging. Every year it's challenging. It doesn't seem to get any easier, but there's still a lot of shining stars, good news flow, good opportunities from an investment perspective, and companies doing great things. And 2 years ago we were at this conference, and post the Rule Symposium, our share price went up 300 to 400%. And so that's a great example of something that, if you find the right stories, you can leverage that. But generally speaking, there is a bit of like doom and gloom, and, things are broken. But underneath that, you have some great stories, great successes, the Snowline discovery being one of them. The major mining companies have been putting out great quarters, starting to generate some serious cash flow. Their share prices have responded accordingly, Agnico Eagle being one of them, for example. Still nowhere near the highs from 2011, but gone up from, say, $40 all the way up to $99. So the foundation is set, I believe, for what could potentially be a return of, let's just say, knock on wood, a bull market in the junior mining sector. We're not quite there yet, but there's definitely good, solid foundation to launch from.
When you're at an event like this and you're just having general conversations with your colleagues from other companies, or chatting with, let's say, some of the speakers or investors at the event, does the conversation turn to more mining focused, or is it more macro focused, talking about sort of everything that's happening in the world in terms of all the debt that we're creating and inflation and that sort of stuff?
I think first thing to note is that there's probably about 400 people here at the conference. So obviously someone cares about mining, and that does not include the companies themselves. And yes, the conversations, at least the ones I've been having, it's kind of intertwined with like the macro. There's the debt, there's the interest rates, the devaluing of currency. So that's all kind of embedded in the conversations. And then somehow we end up talking about junior mining. So I think everyone let's put it this way. You want as much levers to pull on, or as much wind in your sails as possible. So when the macro supports the micro and vice versa, that's when all the stars align and you can get these really high trajectories. But there's still a lot of people asking about, okay, what do you have planned for this year? What are the catalysts that could potentially drive the share price? How are you going to create value? And then obviously if you're in a great backdrop with a rising gold environment, there's conversations on that front. What are your thoughts on the future of gold, the future of the major mining companies, and also interest rates, and how does this all tie in together? So yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag, and it's great to take all that into consideration, because again, it all funnels into the trajectory of the mining space.
Last night I threw on a Peter Schiff podcast, just sort of doing research and thinking of some macro ideas, and he mentioned that the interest expense line item for the U.S. is now the number 3 thing on the U.S. budget, behind Medicare and defense. And we think about just sort of how much interest governments are paying. And then we think about just how much personal debt individuals have in whether the U.S. or Canada or the Western world. I know Canada's even worse than the U.S. And then all the corporate debt that exists from, there's a lot of big companies, they took out massive amounts of debt to do share buybacks. And you can't help but wonder if we are going to see central banks forced to maybe not give up the fight on inflation, but they may have to just kind of let it run, because I don't know that we're going to be able to sit at 5 to 7% interest rates with all the debt we've accumulated in the system. And from my view, that's where the gold trade gets really interesting, and that's kind of where we've seen some of the price spikes over the last year, is the market's maybe coming to that sort of realization.
No, I agree with all of that, and this whole thing about inflation is impacting everyone, from even the mining companies for their all-in sustaining costs, right through to the average person. Then you got the countries, the governments that are dealing with this massive interest rate. So it's I don't think anyone knows how to navigate it. I think that's the, so I agree with what you're saying, but no one has a clear answer on what the solution is. And lowering interest rates, raising interest rates, I don't think that is ultimately going to solve the problem. There's something much bigger here at play. And what gives me comfort is that, yeah, gold, physical gold, it's real, it's tangible, it's finite, and it can't necessarily be, I mean, it can be maybe manipulated on the map. There's, the conspiracists, there may be some truth to that, but the point is that it's finite. You have to find it, and it can't really be as manipulated by the governments per se.
So since the last time we chatted, Tectonic has begun heap leach metallurgical testing,
Yes.
A word I always struggle with,
Yes.
At the Flat Gold Project. Yep. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I think, metallurgy can make or break any project. And the quicker you can answer the question on how to process the ore, how to get the gold out of the rock, it's going to be beneficial to you, to your shareholders, and potentially a suitor down the road. So we did our first phase of metallurgical testing on historical drill core last year. We got those results, phenomenal. They were 96, 97, 99% gold recovery. And we didn't just do one type of test. We did bottle roll testing, flotation tests, gravity tests, and then gravity and bottle roll combined. This year, we've taken it one step further and now exploring heap leaching. And we know, generally speaking, heap leach mines tend to have a lower capital cost, like lower capex to build, lower operational costs, and typically a lower environmental impact. They're also a great way to process lower grade material and still make money. And as we, again, in our industry, we are facing a declining gold grade where, deposits, a lot of the richest deposits have been mined. So gold grades are declining. You have this lot of like sub-gram material. So how do you make that economic? And heap leaching is something that has been validated worldwide. There's probably about 120 heap leach mines all over the globe right now. One of the most well-known heap leach mines is the Fort Knox mine in Alaska, where they're processing, their reserve grade is 0.3 grams per ton going to the pad, and they're making money. It's one of Kinross's most profitable operations. So what I want to do here at Tectonic is, yes, explore heap leaching, but I want to show the world that we don't just have one path, and maintaining or having optionality is critical to a mining project, so you're not just stuck in this one sort of pigeonhole. It has to be this way. So those metallurgical heap leach results will be out hopefully within the next 45 days.
Now, one of the themes that we're hearing a lot of talk about in mining is what happened with Victoria Gold.
Yes.
Does that impact someone like yourself that's trying to work on a heap leach project?
Yeah, so again, just to be perfectly clear, our flat project is, we're exploring heap leaching, but it could also just be a traditional milling type of processing environment. Does it impact us? Yes, it does. It impacts everyone. And the mining space does not need any more black eyes. But the truth of the matter is, every so often, an incident such as the Victoria Gold one pops up, and it doesn't leave anyone with the warm and fuzzies. Now, it is one incident, and I'm not trying to diminish it or speak less of it, but it's one incident out of 120 heap leach mines, and and more than that if you look at from just mines in general, like whether it's a mill, so on and so forth. So that scenario. When the Victoria news broke out, I sat down. We're situated on Native-owned land. I sat down with the CEO of the Native Corporation, and we talked about this. And this is another example of what, working collaboratively with communities and with First Nations and saying, okay, it's just, what are your thoughts, so on and so forth. And the best example we have again is the Fort Knox mine in Alaska that's been producing as a heap leach operation for over a decade, and no incidents whatsoever. It's actually won environmental awards. So we're still very optimistic and are continuing with this path. And although that Victoria incident is a knock on the industry, I don't think it really changes the way major mining companies are going to pursue opportunities. Because when done properly and correctly, mines can coexist, and they can operate without issues too.
What's your 5-year plan, 7-year plan, long run plan for Tectonic. Do you see Tectonic ever trying to get to production, or is the plan just to move this project along far enough so that you can maybe hand it over to a major or do a joint venture?
Sure. I think, again, maintaining optionality. So a company that says, we're just going to sell this, get it to a certain point. Okay, fine. But if you look at the pedigree of our team, we have engineers on our team. We have engineers, we have structural geologists, we have explorationists, we have an environmental biologist that's permitted 9 mines. We have one of the United States most well-known resource lawyers. So we have the whole skill set available to take something into production. And truth be told, we've actually looked at some producing assets. Now, ultimately, we believe flat is a tier 1 opportunity. And the reality is we're never going to get to the finish line. So if you actually execute and find something that is tier 1, so that's like 500,000 ounces of gold produced annually over a 10-year mine life, you're in the lowest cost quartile, it's big fish eats little fish. And our last project that we sold for $520 million, although I was emotionally attached to this project because I saw it from basically giving birth to never been drilled before to 5 million ounce gold resource feasibility study, we had large shareholders, and we also that said, hey, they voted on selling the asset, and we had 3 major mining companies come after us.
That was the Coffee Gold project?
Yes, yeah. So we had 3 companies go after this asset. So we produced something that was needed for those major mining companies as far as replacing ounces are concerned. And so they came in and put an offer, all 3 of them. Now we have to go to our shareholders, and our shareholders, they voted unanimously to sell the asset. And that's the kind of the same trajectory that probably, our company will go down. So if you find the goods, it's going to be big fish eats little fish, and you're not going to really have a say. And that's okay too, because my job at the end of the day is to make money for my shareholders, and whatever shape, way, or form that manifests itself, that's my goal.
So if I'm an investor watching this, what am I looking out for? We've got the metallurgy coming in within the next 45 days. What else am I watching out for?
We have historical drill core that we found on from our project that was not fully assayed. So that's been sent to the lab. So we have metallurgy, we have historical assay results, and then we have financing that we're on the cusp of launching here, which will then, those funds will facilitate the drill program this year at flat. And then following that, you'll have drill results right through till Q1 of next year. And the targets that we've delineated, this is our 2nd year of drilling. Again, the whole team has rallied together to generate these targets, and we're insanely excited about the prospects of these new targets that we've generated.
Tony, thanks so much for hopping on here. I really appreciate you doing this, and please keep coming back on as the project continues to develop.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here. And I will also say thank you for touting the mining space. I don't know if touting is the right word, but just exposing or giving your viewers an opportunity to learn about mining. This is an industry that I'm extremely passionate about, and the more people that talk about it and have discussions such as this, it just benefits all parties. So thank you for that.